All right, Shalom. We are the Hebrew Israelites from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone. We're here to give all praises, glory, and honor to
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
Bahashem,
Bahashem,
Yahweh
Yahushai,
Shai, Bahashem,
Bahashem, Rakakwadash.
Rakakwadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, we're here back again with another installment of our series called For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob. But before we get into it, I just want to declare fair use, fair use, fair use, according to the Copyright Act of 1976, as stipulated under Section 107. All right, there's no monetary gain for this video. It's strictly for educational purposes only. All right, so without further ado, we can get into the opening scripture.
It's the book of Obadiah, verse 10. It says, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
God, it says, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob. Who is that talking to? That's talking to Esau, Edom, the so-called white man who is the wicked, according to Malachi 1 and 4. It's talking about his violence against the children of Israel, especially Judah, which can either be the tribe of Judah, who is your so-called Negroes of America, or the southern kingdom of Israel, which is Judah, Levi, and Benjamin, respectively being the so-called Negroes, the so-called Haitians, and the so-called West Indians or the Jamaicans. All right, for the hell that they have put on us since coming into power, and that hatred has been perpetual, But now the truth is coming out. That's why you have these buzzwords called woke. They want to say a woke movement. Well, if what do the scriptures tell us? It's high time to be awake out of sleep, for our salvation is near in what we believe. They don't want us to be to come into knowing who we are. Okay, and once we understand who we are, the consequence of that is understanding who they are and how this devil operates. Okay, he has the same playbook over and over again, as we show you week in and week out with these different stories that has happened over history. Okay, and we'll put a link to this article from EGI in the description box. We're going to be dealing with the lynching of Lynch Shaw. Okay, go ahead.
It says, And then shall the wicked be revealed,
Mm-hmm.
whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So, of course, the wicked, like you had mentioned, it tells you that there is a wicked that the Bible speaks of. And in order to find out who that wicked is, the Lord has given us clues, according to the scriptures, of who that person would be, and especially in these last days. So this is why we say Esau, even so-called white man.
Well, the book of Job says that we will know his tokens. All right, his signs of who he is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's using the mouth of the prophets, to search him out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course through the spirit of Habashim Shai, the internet, being increased, that has also been a helpful item that's been used, for the prophets to spread this word, to get it out of who he is, but also who the righteous are as well.
Yep.
Right? This truth, the good news, the gospel, the salvation, the good tidings unto the elect of Israel. But before all these things happen, the wicked must be revealed for who he is. And he said, it shall destroy them with the brightness of his coming, because pretty soon, all the things in which is being shown, he's not fully paid or received a full judgment for. And so these things have to come out like in the court of law. All the witnesses, which are the prophets, and it tells you out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter being established. So you have witnesses of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the true, the elect, throughout the 4 corners of the globe, speaking daily and constantly of all the atrocities and abominations that's happened on the earth, especially led by Esau, Edom, so-called white man, and of course the other nations and 2/3 of our people. So when judgment comes, the Lord is going to be completely justified in the things that he do when he utterly annihilate this place.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just one small instance that we're going to read into of a greater matter that the Yahweh Shai is going to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And like the brothers always said, you know, I like when you brought that up. He said every time we go into the violence against our brother Jacob, there's always a new story. We haven't ran out of a story yet, and we just only touched the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a whole lot to be uncovered, and the things in which we can't find or see, other brothers are finding and seeing, and the things that all of us as a collect body are unable to find and see, the angels of the Lord eyes have been on it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all things are being reported back to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, as it is said, the sins have reached up to the heavens.
Yep.
So judgment is soon to come. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, this is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 16. It says, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered," which is going to what? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, being exposed for his wickedness, which ultimately we're in that time right now. As the brother just brought out in 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, then shall that wicked be revealed. Hey, that's going on right now as we speak. All right, through these violence against our brother Jacob videos. All right, and ultimately, the spirit of the Lord that's upon the men of the Lord, man. Beginning with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. All right, Ezekiel the 35th chapter told us what? Prophesy against Mount Seir. All right, us prophesying against Mount Seir consists of what? Us exposing Esau, Edom, and bringing out all his wickedness, and ultimately declaring the judgment that's coming upon him for his wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." And see, so we in a time where ultimately Esau, Edom's true character and true nature is being revealed, and these nations around, they ain't respecting this dude no more. All right, they looking at him with a shameful look, man. And see, America is not this glorious, all right, country that it was once known as. All right, now don't nobody respect this place, man.
Nope. Nope.
Pull up that word spewing.
Mm-hmm. This is
Shameful spewing.
It's a spewing in the blue letter. It says disgrace, shame. It says intense disgrace, shameful spewing. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I have a spew here just to kind of give to shameful spewing another. This is just the dictionary, Webster dictionary. They got vomit. It says to come forth in a flood or gush.
Mm.
So isn't that what's
Yeah.
happening?
Yep.
Like with all the stuff that's going on in the earth, like it is like piling up on like where he can't
hide
stop
himself
it.
anymore. Yeah.
You know, it's like a gush of water just coming upon him as far as like they talk about misinformation and all these different things that he was able to use the media to quell or calm down the things that were said about him.
Yeah.
Now it's coming so much upon him and like a flood to the point he's going to get overwhelmed and he's going to resort back to his strength
Mm-hmm.
that the Lord has given him, his blessing, which
Yep.
is that sword.
Yep.
It says to ooze out as if under pressure, right? And it says to send or cast forth with vigor or violence, in a great quantity. So that's why I said earlier, all the prophets
Yeah.
coming out and bringing this information out. And then you also seeing even his own people, like the scriptures say, he shall make his tongue to fall upon himself.
Con.
He's telling the things that he's going to do himself, and then of course his own people are calling out the things in which they're seeing, which is only aiding. You know, you can't do nothing against the truth before the truth.
Con.
So all these things are aided for Yahweh Shai, of course, to return and bring forth that judgment.
Okay.
Yep.
Says this is the book of Job, chapter 21, beginning at verse 29, and so 29. This pretty much is going to cover what you were saying about him not being judged yet and how we know who he is. This is Job 21, beginning at verse 29. It says, "Have ye not asked them that go by the way, and do ye not know their tokens?" And what is their tokens? All right, deceit. But more importantly, like Yahweh Shah said, you know, the devil come but to kill, steal, and destroy. That's what he does. That's his MO. Okay, that's how we know who he is. Okay, he's a liar. You know, has always been one from the beginning. You know, he is not. You know, his thirst for blood is insatiable. You know, He has to keep killing. He even eats his food that way, with the blood in it. That's Esau Edom, so-called white man. It says that the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction. They shall be brought forth to the day of wrath. And that just goes to the part of, the stuff that they've been doing over all these years and have yet to be judged. They're going to be judged, but the Lord is saving them until the judgment day. All right, that great day when those nukes hits and all those plagues and pestilences hit. All right, they will be taken care of. Like you said, vengeance is His, and He's going to recompense, that evil against them for what they've done to us. All right. All right, so I'll get to the article here. Like I said, as you see it on the screen, it is from our site called EJI, A History of Racial Injustice. And today we're going to deal with something that happened on this event that took place on April 28th, 1936. Titled White Mob Lynches Lynching in Georgia 8 hours before trial. It says the Negro is lynched by a Georgia mob. Lynching 50 taken from jail and body was found a few hours before his trial. It says on April 28, 1936, a mob of 40 white men in Colbert, Georgia, shot a black farmer named Lynching to death just 8 hours before he was scheduled to stand trial on allegations of attempting to assault 2 white women. There it is, the same playbook over and over again. Always accused of, trying to touch that woman with, no lips and a flat ass. It don't make sense. They always just think that you want them. They're trying to save their purity when they were getting with the slaves as much as the so-called white man was. All right. It says during the era of racial terror, accusations of attempted assault lodged against black men were often based on merely looking at or accidentally bumping into a white woman, smiling, winking, getting too close, or being alone with a white woman in the wrong place. All right, so yeah, like even to this day, you got a lot of. I was just watching the guy from what is that? Ted Lanes used to play on the TV show Love Boat for y'all time, but he said even to this day that when a white woman would come in his office, the door stays open. You got a lot of execs and CEOs who do the same so-called black execs and CEOs that will do the same thing. They leave their office door open so they cannot be accused of anything. And this is what they did in those times. And it costs you your life. Go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus chapter 23 verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness.
Mm.
So just again, like it said in that article, you said it was it said during the era of racial terror, accusations of attempted assault. Mm-hmm. So there were many. Actually, if you go back to the violence against our brother Jacob's, there were several where they were accused of something that they didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Where there was accused of, like it said, touching a white woman, so-called white woman, sexually assaulting a so-called white woman. The one where the little boy who was like 15, 16 years old, where he was the youngest to be put on to be executed.
George Stinney.
Yep.
Yeah, 14 years old.
And
Yeah.
And they blamed him for kissing a little white girl or messing with a white girl.
That was we did that one a while ago too.
Yeah.
The kissing something. I think that was in
North
North Carolina.
I might be putting two together because there's been so many.
George Stinney was his story. That was what the Green Mile was about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know we've done so many that they kind of blend in.
Yeah.
Even with the one Emmett Till.
Yep.
Like most recent, everybody know. A lot of people know about Emmett Till. They said that he blew a whistle. He whistled at a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is it. These accusations. Even if you did whistle, in today's time, is it warranted to, pull a young man out of his home
Mm-hmm.
and brutally beat him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, we could almost gather to say
Yeah.
that it was a false accusation.
Well,
They
like,
didn't even allow it to get to trial. I mean,
right.
I'm probably going ahead of it, but
No. What I was saying was you meant something off of an act, but it said here, it says an attempted assault
mm-hmm.
was all it took.
Yeah,
So they really didn't have to do it. You could just say something.
yeah,
Say that they did something, and
Yeah.
then the history shows us not only did they just get that individual, they went back and wiped out whole communities.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then have the audacity to ask the question why, or say today in today's time, well, I wasn't there. I didn't have anything to do with it. Well, you had the guy who you said alleged did it. Why'd you go kill the rest of the community? You have to pay for that.
That was a reason, because a lot again, going into many of the stories as well,
Mhm.
like the grocery story,
Yeah.
grocery store, they were upset.
Because you got competition.
So
Yeah.
they had competition, and then once they got him out of there, they assumed the property.
Yeah.
So they also had covetous, you know, they have a covetous, inordinate desire to have what somebody else has had.
Mhm.
So you mix that with a perpetual hatred.
Oh, that's Micah
Let's get it.
2, 1 and 2.
Yep.
You want to grab it?
This is the book of Micah, chapter 2, beginning in verse 1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds."
Kind of in that particular case, they didn't like the competition, so they was looking for a means to get rid of this guy out of the grocery business. Go ahead.
It says, "When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand."
And that's the thing. They look for an opportunity. They practice nothing but wickedness. That's what they're all about. Okay. Bringing harm to Jake. Point blank. Period. Go ahead.
It says, "And they cover fields and take them by violence,
Mhm.
and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage."
What do you think they did with his farm after that? He was a farmer, right?
Yeah. They took his land.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say. I mean, that's been
Yeah.
their thing.
Yeah.
The thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. He's going to fall under one of those categories. So all the stuff he's doing,
Mhm.
whether he's coming in deceit, or whether he's setting policy, it's coming into to steal something, to kill something, and to destroy.
Mhm.
Like the scriptures tells us in Proverbs, he sleep not unless he have done mischief.
Yep.
His sleep is taken away unless he have caused some to fall.
Mm-hmm.
For he eat the bread of wickedness and he drink the wine of violence.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's his. There's nothing outside of that. He can't do right.
Yep. That's
You
it. That's what that Job 21 and 29. Those are his tokens. That's how you know this dude. Inside and out. He's a terrible individual. All right.
You got more?
No, he just said, you oppress a man, even a man in his house and his heritage, and that's what he does. Like you said, he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that killing is not always physical. He can kill your drive, kill your progress.
Mm-hmm.
With his policies and stuff like that. And he's just got those list of video with Elder Malcolm yesterday. He said they have to go.
All right. So
They must go.
And here's the thing. So when we deal with even a man and his heritage,
Mm-hmm.
now you got the true Israelites. Start with the elect, the head apostles of Great Millstone, and those that teach the likewise doctrine,
Mhm.
saying we are the true people, and that the people that claim to be have stolen our heritage.
Yeah.
They took the land and claim to be a people, but everyone is, not everyone, but people are coming up against us claiming to be, and then we can go through the scriptures to show it,
Mm-hmm.
but then we have questions for them. No one's even questioned the fact that, 1948, they made a decree
Yep.
that they just placed themselves in the land.
Yep.
But
Yep.
no one questions that. But we're well connected with the scriptures, But I just wanted to throw that out there. So
Yeah.
you oppress a man, because you said he covered fields and take them by violence.
Yep.
He oppress a man, even his heritage.
Yep.
He took, claimed to be the people, and he's not.
Yeah. But the thing is, what it says in that Wisdom of Solomon 5, these people can't believe it. They had us in derision. It's like wow, these are the people. Yeah, we are.
Well, You had the which we've done one on that, the Willie Lynch letter,
Yep.
where he said that if there was there had to be a phenomenon to happen because of all the things that they've created
Mm-hmm.
to knock us off our path. He said it has to be a phenomenon to have happened where to bring them back into a order.
Yeah.
Roughly paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And of course, that phenomenon is Yahweh Shai.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, he set up men, and now we're speaking and understanding these scriptures and knowing who we are. And the devil, they hate that.
Yeah. Well, it only makes sense. He said, the Lord said, Jeremiah 17:4, thou, even thou, I would discontinue you from your heritage.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's the one who took it away from us, he's the only one who can give it back, as he did in, he talked about in the Valley of the Dry Bones in Ezekiel 37, and also the book of Baruch. He said, in the land of your captivity, you shall remember yourselves, which means it was inevitable. He was in control of it the whole time. All right, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. All right, in control of the time when we lost our heritage until the time we was going to get it back. And now these people are in a stupor because they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. They can't stand the fact that we're saying this. And it's like you said, they'll come up against us. But the scriptures prove without a shadow of a doubt that you're not the people.
That's a spirit. That's a spiritual activation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's whole because it's like, you mentioned it, at a certain time period, the Lord activated certain spirits.
Yeah.
Which again, that's why we're saying that, it's the men that taught our apostles. I started with Abba Bivens.
Mm-hmm.
It was something activated in him to start going into the New and Old Testament. No, kind of going too far. I don't go too far, but then now you have our heads, apostles, and elders that's learning from these men to then now to this point.
Yeah.
And then that's what going back to your Ezekiel, where he says, where it says, rising upon your feet.
Yeah.
And great fear fell upon them that seen it.
Yep.
And how did they see it? Through the internet.
Yep.
Because now you're seeing boop, 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 different things are popping up. Algorithms, their algorithm is popping up, all these different people claiming to be Israelites.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
well, we got to do something about this, but you can't. You can take away, it's too late. You can remove all the history you want to. Like, who was that? I think was the camp on Friday. Somebody said that the elect is pretty much sealed. Where we are right now, I mean, of course you're going to have some, like we always talk about, the 11th hour, but for the most part, yeah, the elect is pretty much sealed. And then again, it's just, once again, it's timing. He already know who's predestinated to be the elect. So just click, flip the switch, and you're there.
Because the thing is like, I think we watched the video, and I don't know if it was mentioned also at the camp, but how things are, like, since a certain point, things have moved fast.
Yes.
He says, for the elect's sake, these times are short.
Yeah, the days are short. Yep.
These things are moving so fast. You're seeing scoffers popping up.
Yep.
You're seeing, and we're gonna get back to it. But these are parts as to, the wicked finally coming to the point of receiving a judgment.
Yeah.
They're being revealed for who they are. The righteous are coming into the right way, and we're starting to realize, what he say, the scripture says, him that smote, when he says we will not.
I got
yeah,
you.
grab that real quick and then we can go back to the article.
This is Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 20. It says, "This shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth."
So people are coming into this the elect are coming to this understanding and realizing that, this one that has in times past by the mouth of the prophets been bringing out, these are the ones that have no good dealings with you.
Right.
Right. They've in times past, like they try to tell you to get over the past, but now every time we uncover something new,
yep,
somebody else that they've hurt, another land that they've stolen,
yep,
all the way up into this current present moment, the things that they're actually doing, the unrighteous decrees,
yep,
that they're setting forth upon so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians.
Yep.
And so we're now seeing that, and we're not relying on their system anymore.
Right.
You know, we're just pilgrims passing by until the Lord decides that it's all over. Yahweh sends Yahweh Shah to say that it's done.
Mm-hmm.
We know we have a few prophecies, left. Main one, MOTB, World War III, and then of course the insurrections at the time of Jacob's trouble, going to completely increase upon the earth.
Right. Right.
But we'll get back.
Okay, we get back to the article. I'll start back at the top of the second paragraph. It says, during the era of racial terror, accusations of attempted assault lodged against black men were often based on merely looking at or accidentally bumping into a white woman, smiling, winking, getting too close, or being alone with a white woman in the wrong place. The deep racial hostility permeating Southern society meant that accusations lodged against black people, especially against black men by white women or girls, were rarely subject to serious scrutiny by the police, press, or lynch mobs. Okay, so they didn't. It was just automatic. To say, in layman's terms, that accusation was an automatic, judgment of guilt. All right, and they came and did what they did. All right. Next paragraph.
Go
ahead.
Here's the other thing too. Like even I think around probably like maybe right around the time before they started using the purity on white, like 1600. At one point, these white women actually they actually were getting with these slaves.
Yeah.
Like meaning wanting to have marriages and be with them.
Yep.
And so laws and certain things were like created that they would have to resume or assume, that man's life. So they pretty much, she would be like a slave, or they would beat the mess out of her or him. So then that deterred a lot of that as well. Mm-hmm. So then you come and fast forward, it's like a way to keep their women away. It's like, if we catch you with her or catch y'all, it's like you sexually assaulted her.
Right. Right.
So it was automatic, like you said, to your point, it's like automatic guilt. It was like, and now in today's time, as you can see it, a lot of their women are turning against them.
Right.
Just the same, the curses that happen upon us are falling upon them.
Oh.
And so their women are turning, also speaking against them and coming against them, and they also are cleaving themselves to the so-called blacks, Hispanic, and Native American man. Just real quick, the scene of the thing was a video. I'm trying to remember if brother posted, but it was a video where they're saying like a lot of these white women are so-called were wanting to get with Jake to have babies because they want their babies to be, to be melanated.
Yep.
And thinking that they'll have a better chance. But of course, brother was breaking it down, as we know, that child is the seed of the man.
Yep.
So that's a thing that's been going on too. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 7. It says, and the Lord Yahweh thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. You see, we like the brothers just going into, you see amongst the Edomite nation that, their women are turning against them, speaking against them, being rebellious against them. Well, hey, that's the shit that Jake been dealing with, pretty much their whole lives, man.
Yep.
You see? So now we in a time where ultimately, because we know the curses are written in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 all the way on down, and it tells you that ultimately that the eye of your wife will be evil towards you. All right, roughly paraphrasing. So now these things are affecting the Edomites, man. Because the Lord said he will put those curses upon the other nations, man. And that begins with Edom. And the other heathens going to feel these curses too. Because all the nations have persecuted us. All right? It's just that Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, he's been the heaviest persecutor out of all the nations.
As the scripture says, he that diggeth the pit, it shall fall therein. And he that rolleth the stone, it shall fall upon him. The stone shall fall upon him.
Mm-hmm.
Because they set decrees, again, purposely putting sowing discord between the man and the woman, or men and the men of Israel, with the out of the house movement, giving the woman many subsidies to make and push that feminist doctrine that they don't need a man. And of course you see the so-called the head tribe, so-called black woman, but then you have the other tribes of Israel pushing that they don't need a man.
Yep.
And all of these things were was pushed by Esau Edom. So now, like it says, you dig that pit, or you created these things. It says, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto
Yep.
you. So now everything is like falling back upon you.
Yep.
You reap what you sow.
Yep.
With Galatians 6, 7 and 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you said, the women are going to turn against them. This is I just had it. They won't mourn. Okay. Job 27. Starting at verse it's 15, but started 14. Says, if his children be multiplied, it is for the sword. This is talking about the wicked, Esau, Edom. All right. And his offspring shall not be satisfied with bread. All right. So they're going to be out of here. Verse 15, and those that remain of him shall be buried in death, and his widow shall not weep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're not going to, hey, he gone. What, that breaks them from the law, so they can get with a Jake. And like, what was that? Even that girl that was messing with Shannon Sharp, put you on, you put that big black baby in me. It's just a mess, but that's another story. He's a goofball. But back to the article. This was Precept Sirach or Ecclesiasticus 11 and 7. And it says, blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke. And that's, going into what they were saying. All they needed was an alleged accusation. They didn't research nothing. They didn't go look for evidence. They didn't do a due diligence. That's all they needed against Jake was an accusation of something, and to justify doing the horrific stuff that they did to us in history. Okay.
They took the law in their own hands.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even allow, like I said, 8 hours before his trial.
Mm-hmm.
Because now there's supposedly in their trial, in their courts, everything gets documented.
Yeah.
You couldn't allow for the witnesses to come forth,
Mm-mm.
and the ladies that he supposedly assaulted to speak and actually tell what happened.
Well, that just goes to prove the system that's in place. It's not for us. Now, there are all the laws, draconian measure laws that are against us. They give us the full extent of the judgment of that particular law, but they're not held to the same standard of their own laws.
Yep, you grab that. They're not troubled like other men.
Yeah.
Let's bring that out real quick.
This is Psalms chapter 73 and verse 5. It says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. It says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, and violence covereth them as a garment.
Yeah, well, we said they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. They said there's a scripture that says, though a sinner do wickedly, what's that in Sirach? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, not Sirach.
Ecclesiastes 8 and 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they haven't gotten trouble. So their pride is elevated.
Yeah.
They're like, man, we done slaughtered, we took this whole land.
Yep.
And then they can stand up and go, God bless America.
Yeah.
After all the things them and their forefathers have done to assume this place, to obtain this place, right? You got it?
Yeah, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 8 verse 11. It says, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily.
So first they're in the rulership role. They're in rulership. So they pretty much set the laws, and they can tell who can continue to go to get off. And of course, these elites, a lot of them push forth a lot of these things, like the KKK, these other militia groups. They be behind a lot of these things anyway.
Yeah. What's the guy's name? Judah Benjamin, an Amalekite. He's the one who started the KKK.
Yeah, like even with if I have it correctly, like a lot of that transition to like the sheriffs.
Yeah.
Where it became, at first it was like slave catchers, the paddy wagon or something like that. It was like slave catchers, but then it transferred over to like these sheriffs.
Mm-hmm.
And of course that star goes back. I believe.
The star Rim fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, is a lot more deep rooted. And that's what they've used. So it all have transitioned. They just the same devil. It's just that they've modernized certain things and they hid behind
Yep.
certain stuff, and people, to confuse the people. Yeah, you got more.
Yes, verse. It says, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil.
Yeah.
It says, though a sinner do evil 100 times.
So he's done evil more than we can count.
Yep.
We've done 100 plus violence against our brother Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's done more than we could even think of.
And still doing it.
And still doing it. So though a sinner do evil 100 times,
Mhm.
of course, it also goes to 2/3 of our people.
Yep.
Because those are the ones who actually sin. The sin is the transgression of the law, and the law was given to our people. But Esau, put his hands on our book, and he know that he could have ruled if by chance he tried. He had an opportunity to rule in righteousness, but he can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He was created to not be able to.
Mhm.
But go ahead.
It says, though a sinner do evil 100 times, and his days be prolonged, yet surely I know that it shall be well with them that fear the Most High, which fear before him. But it shall not be well with the wicked.
The wicked, which is Esau, the so-called white
Mm-hmm.
man.
Mhm.
2/3 of our people who do wickedly.
Mhm.
All right, go ahead.
It says, neither shall he prolong his days, which are as a shadow, because he feareth not before the Most High.
And Job said, though his excellency mount up to the heavens, then shall he be brought down. He will perish like his own
Mhm.
dung. He will be as like a dream, right?
Mhm.
That's also a shadow. Is very it's a variable. It's like it moves. You know what I'm saying? It's here today and gone tomorrow. You can stand in one spot and you see your shadow, and then the next moment you're looking for where it's at. That's how he's going to be, like a shadow. You have something?
No, that was it to that.
All right. You will go back to the other one. Make sure we got everything off that.
Psalm 73
Yeah.
and verse 5. It says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. It says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. It says, their eyes stand out with fatness, they have more than heart could wish. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily.
Yeah, and even with that, we did a video like a time or so ago, like a week or so ago, where when those migrants, when they died, and they laughed,
Mm-hmm.
right? They concerning oppression.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Back to the article.
Okay.
Okay. Says, following his arrest, Mr. Shaw was at constant risk of lynching and was moved multiple times to avoid mob attack. During a transfer... Go ahead.
This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 11, verse 4. It says, thus said the Lord, power, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose oppressors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. Because this is their rulership.
Yep.
They're slaying who? The flock, which is the Israelites. Starting there. All right. It says, and they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. So of course, our own people are in the mix of that as well. But mainly, they have control and rulership, and under their rulership, they've done all these things to our people.
Right.
And they've hold themselves not guilty.
Right.
They justify their violence
Mm-hmm.
upon us. Go ahead.
Was that when it comes to their laws, do as I say, not as I do? It's yeah. All right. Back to the article. It says, following his arrest, Mr. Shaw was at constant risk of lynching and was moved multiple times to avoid mob attack. During a transfer to the jail at Danielsville, Georgia, Mr. Shaw was shot twice and rushed to the Atlanta for protection and medical attention. Mr. Shaw survived those injuries and was returned to Danielsville to await trial. but a threatening mob again led him to be transferred. Mr. Shaw, while Mr. Shaw was being transported back to jail on April 28th, a group of angry men seized him. The mob riddled Mr. Shaw's body with bullets and tied his corpse to a pine tree near a creek in Colbert, Georgia. All right, and that's one of those famous pictures you see in the book called Without Sanctuary, where he's tied face to a tree and body's just slumped down, but he can't actually fall. Yeah, that's one of you, and this in the video at the beginning of the of this video. Yeah, one of those famous postcard pictures. It says Lynch Shaw was at least one of six African American victims of racial terror lynching killed in Madison County, Georgia. No one was ever prosecuted for his murder. And like you said, you know, they took the law in their own hands. And we have to believe, as strong as they pride themselves on their military and law enforcement, for this to happen over and over and over again, an angry mob taking over the jail, taking over the prison, you cannot tell me that these local authorities were not, aiding and abetting those mobs. You know, they had a huge hand in that.
Precept. It's the book of Obadiah, chapter 15. It says, "For the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head."
Mm-hmm.
So all the things in which you've done, of course, instead of anything that is according to righteousness, the elect, the body of Israel is going to do. It's going to be placed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
In righteousness.
Yep.
As thou hast done, it should be done unto you. And it says, and thy reward shall return upon thy head, and your reward is destruction.
Yep.
And of course, in the same token, as it's been coined, your destruction, but the elect of Israel's redemption.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got something. This is Amos chapter 1, verse 11. It says, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever." You see, so ultimately, it may seem like, these Edomites are getting away with the atrocities that they've committed towards the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we understand that the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, has remembered all the iniquities and all the evils that Esau, Edom, and so-called white man has committed against the children of Israel. All right, which is why we see America falling and being taken apart piece by piece. And this place ain't gonna be healed, man, like the scriptures say. You see, so ultimately, the Esau, Edom's judgment is chasing them. All right, as we speak, man. You see, he's losing his kingdom. He's getting ready to lose his power. Okay, he's getting ready to go into slavery, and guess what? The ultimate judgment that's getting ready to fall upon Esau, Edom, is that what? His entire nation is going to be wiped out forever after they serve their 1,000 years of slavery.
Yep. This is the book of Psalms 109, beginning at verse 12. It says, "Let there be none to extend mercy unto him." And we know, according to the scriptures and the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary, that Edom is the only neighbor of Egypt that will not receive any mercy. All right, the
Neighbor
only
of Israel.
neighbor of Israel that will not receive any mercy. All right, it says, "Neither let there be any favor to his fatherless children." No respect of person. Your kids gonna get it too. All right. So verse 13, it says, "Let his posterity be cut off, and in the generation following, let their name be blotted out." So that's just beginning of him wiping that nation out. All right, we'll get to that since you in one of Obadiah already. It says, Psalms verse on 109, verse 14. It says, "Let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with the Lord." Just backing up what you just said. He's got a tally, and the Lord has seen it all. All right. He says, "And let not the sin of his mother be blotted out." Okay. Again, she had a huge hand in this. As the brother mentioned earlier, those women could have came forth and say that they didn't do what they were accused of, but no, she was complicit with it. All right, and that's always been the case. You just look at it. There's a book out called "They Were Her Property." You so-called white women were 43% of the slave owners at the time. All right, it says verse Psalms 109 verse 15. Let them, Esau, Edom, the wicked, be before the Lord continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. So that's what you got coming to you. Your nation is going extinct for putting your hands on the men of the Lord. Your time is up, Esau. All right. All right. Okay, so with that, we hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, we're going to give all praises, glory, and honor to
Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash.
Double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and our fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth. They be like it to the speckled bird, also known as Israelite foreigners, and so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
Kwam Yasharala.
Kwam Yasharala.
Abab Abal.
Abab Abal.